interesting time to be in your 40s. You know, more women aren't covering up their grays. And trust me, like, I want to be a fully feral old woman with gray hair down to my ass, like running through the woods. But it's still hard to see your face start to change. It is still really challenging to see things start to sag and wrinkles start to form, because we grew up in the 80s and the 90s and we had supermodels in our faces and our moms as examples. We were taught that our value lied in our beauty and our youth, and we're working on it. Feral old lady is the goal, but I'm still gonna keep using my jade roller.
Hola, mis amigos, ¿cómo están? Hi, my loves. How are you doing today? So I'm back with another video, and I actually got this idea, and I thought, oh my god, this is such a good idea. And this is how I burn myself out, because I'm like, ooh, you know, and it makes it hard to stick to a particular schedule, because I'm like, oh no, like I definitely have to go into that. I definitely have to research that and make a video on that. So anyway, I got this idea from my last video because not all of you, but a lot of you got really bent out of shape, right? And I will place some of the comments that I got here in this video. In this video, we're going to talk about the topic of age, especially as it pertains to women. So here's the thing. I had to sit back and think about it. So just kind of like a quick rundown. In my last video, I told this story about a few years ago meeting this male, and it turns out that he was with this like 45-year-old lady, or over 40s lady, is no stranger to cheating on her and doing all these things and playing in her face and whatnot. I can't remember exactly what my words were. So yeah, so he's no stranger to cheating on her, blah, blah, blah. And so one of my comments to that was like, there's no way, this is an older lady, right? This is an older lady. And so a lot of you kind of like harnessed onto that point, right? Oh my God, how could you call her old? That's the patriarchal mindset working in you. Blah, 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 blah. That's just the patriarchy. You haven't sorted out your patriarchal thinking. I'm like, I was like, oh my gosh, shut up, please. Like, I cannot, right?
One of the tools that any system of oppression uses is to have a pre-existing mechanism to invalidate anybody who challenges it. And it does have to be pre-existing. It can't look reactive or it won't work. So when it comes to the patriarchy, what the patriarchy does is the patriarchy recognizes that around the age of 40, give or take, it's faster now because of TikTok, but around the age of 40, give or take, women start to wake up to the bullshit of everything that they've been fed. They start to see the lie in everything. So the patriarchy is there at the ready to say, oh, but women over 40, you're just bitter. And you're irrelevant. It's like already set up to have taken our power away by the time we come into this realization. It also uses this mechanism to enlist young women in perpetuating the patriarchy. Because even though the patriarchy says, you know, women are less valuable than men, it says young women, you guys are valuable. So young women participate in this hierarchy where they believe themselves to be more valuable than older women. And then as I get closer and closer and closer to that old, they start to panic because they're like, wait a minute, I'm valuable. I'm not less valuable because I've learned more, because I'm wiser. They're like on this conveyor belt moving faster and faster to that purported wall that the men love to tell us is real. They're looking back and they're like, no, like I matter. Like most of the reason that women try to look younger than they are isn't to attract men. It's to not lose their power in the patriarchy. It's to not become irrelevant. But as soon as they start saying, no, this isn't fair, I'm no less relevant, I'm better, I'm a better human now than I was 10 years ago. The patriarchy is there ready to just say, but you're bitter though, shh. Of course, white supremacy does this to black people too, right? But it's a different trope. It's the angry black person trope. It's just there at the ready. If a black person dare assert a boundary or disagree with a white person or so much as share anything about their lived experience, doesn't matter what tone they have, automatic label at the ready. Angry black person. It works with classism too, because we're still pretending that we live in some sort of meritocracy. So if somebody's not successful and they try to point out that the system isn't fair, it's right there at the ready. Well, you're just not smart enough. You're just not good enough at the system. You don't work hard enough. You want something for nothing. Anyway, the only solution to this is to just bring awareness to the fact that this is what's happening, and just generally in life to regard any trope that you hear with great suspicion and skepticism. There are very few tropes that are not harmful.
So anyway, with me though, because I'm an introvert, so I sit back and I'll think about things over and over and over again, right? So I'm like, okay, let me sit back and consider what they've said here. Like, let me sit back and consider and see, right? If that is a patriarchal mindset, if that is a patriarchal thing, like why do I view her as an older lady, right? And is it true? And does that change my mind, right? Saying, or these comments that I'm getting saying that, oh, that's actually a patriarchal mindset. And I sat back, I thought about it and said, no, that is an older lady. That is an older lady. So I said to myself, why do these people think in this way, right? Like, why are they saying that, right? And I said, oh, so this is how I view it, right? I believe I believe that the patriarchal conditioning isn't in that, oh, 40 is not old. And I think this is how we get to the point of never really, it's like when women pushed to be able to work. We pushed to be able to work so far that males were able to use that against us. And now we have 50-50 all over the place. Okay, right? So I don't believe that. So here's the point, right? I don't believe that the patriarchal conditioning is in the fact that being a woman in your 40s is being an older lady. That's an older lady. You're an older lady. I say that about myself all the time, and I'm not even in my 40s. I'm an older lady. You cannot play me like that, right? I'm older, especially if I'm older than you. Forget it, right? So the reason why I think the actual conditioning of the patriarchy takes place in believing that getting older is a negative thing. And I said, oh, that makes sense, right? So because I'm like, there's no way. This is an older lady. Like, do they want me to delude myself? Do they want me to act like that's not the case? Like, yeah, objectively speaking, like it's not old in the sense of, oh, I can't move, I can't do anything, I'm just old and useless. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I can't move, I can't do anything, I'm just old and useless. And so I'm thinking, okay, all of these are negative connotations associated with the word old. So why would they just go there? Why would the mass people and the mass public, why would they go there first as opposed to thinking and processing through as to the whole context of what I'm saying in general? I'm like, oh, that's because the true conditioning of the patriarchy is they think they're seeing it, they think they're seeing the truth, but they're not able to see it, right? Because they're too stuck on emotion. They're just stuck in emotion, right? As soon as it hurts their feelings, especially for women, as soon as it hurts their feelings, oh my God. It's like, you just sit down and use your brain and process through things. Like, there's no way of undoing this patriarchy if we don't start doing this. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense, right? So I'm like, no, I'm not living in delusion. That's an older lady, right? She's in her 40s, right? So what's going on? Well, the problem, the true patriarchal conditioning, like I said, is that you insist upon yourself that you're able to stay young forever, right? And you insist upon yourself, and the patriarchy has made you believe that growing older is a negative thing. It's a negative thing. I'm going to try to find the screenshots from the Instagram back and forth that I had with a male that try to weaponize age, against women, and I went off. Oh my gosh. So I found it. Y'all, you don't know how much digging through I had to do to find this comment. Like, what? Oh, I'm so happy, like the internal joy I feel. It's like, okay, so I found the comment that I was referring to that I posted 2 weeks ago. So as you can see, I posted this comment on Instagram 2 weeks ago, and you can see at the very bottom, it has my picture and it says add a comment. So you can see that these are my posts. Right? And this is how I view, I'm posting this to further illustrate the point on how I view this situation about the aging. And I honestly believe that, hey, ladies, if you got triggered by that in the other video, you need to really, really start doing some more internal work. Okay, because your first thought shouldn't be associating aging with something negative. Let's start there. That in and of itself is a problem. Okay, so anyway, there's a dusty male, right, that I'm going back and forth with. He ended up getting blocked. I didn't even realize that. It's just, you can tell, whenever they're blocked and all their comments are gone, all their responses. But yeah, so I say males are wolf in sheep's clothing, right? So I want you to notice these two comments, right? So you can see, and I'm not just, this is 2 weeks ago. The video that I posted that brought up this age thing, I just posted that 1 to 2 days ago. I literally just made it and posted it 1 to 2 days ago. Okay, so my comment here, I say, ew, only a male would think that there's something wrong with aging. Because he said something about age and women being old and past their prime or whatever he was saying, right? So I said, ew, only a male would think that there's something wrong with aging, something that literally happens to every human being if they are lucky. Okay. Now the rest of it, you are a male. You are literally a male. Admit it. This is a fake account, fake profile, blah, blah, blah. Irrelevant to what we're discussing here. But if you want to read the rest of it, it's right there on the screen, right? Now I want to go to the next message, right? I said, ew, he can't read either. He thinks there's something wrong with aging and he literally can't read. So you are a fool male. It's literally so obvious. you and your fake account need to get help. Because I'm pretty sure he created a fake account, y'all. Like, so males have started to do this thing. I'm just going to put this out there so y'all can know, because this is actually pretty important. I've noticed that males have started to do this thing where they'll create fake accounts and they'll find the picture of a woman and they'll put the profile picture, they'll put the picture of the woman as the profile picture. It's wild. There is no low that these males will not steep to. Like, literally, it's crazy. And it's so obvious that it's a fake account. Like, if you click on the account, there's 0 friends, 0 followers, 0 everything. So it's like a spam account. And they just find a random picture of a woman and then they start pretending like they're a woman and they'll come into the woman's space, speaking red pill content. You're welcome. You're welcome. I couldn't believe it when I was like, oh my gosh. Wow, this is literally, you're literally the same person that I've been talking to. You literally just created a fake account and now you're trying to defend yourself through the fake account. It's wild. But yeah, I digress. So ladies, you have some work to do. If you were triggered by that, you have a lot of work to do. That in and of itself is internalized self-hate, right? Because by me saying this is an old lady, if you're triggered by that and you view that your automatic response was negative towards that, there's something wrong with that. That is what you need to question. Don't project on me. Don't project on me for telling the truth. That's an older lady. What is she doing? You dating a 33-year-old. You're an older lady letting a 33-year-old play you to your face. Makes no sense. But then again, culturally, my culture is very different from the American culture. Okay, in my culture, the older people have way more power over younger people, like way more power. And it's been hard trying to find the middle ground for myself when it comes to that. So we don't view these things in the same way. But you got to start questioning yourself on these things. It's wild. It's wild. I didn't go off in the same way that y'all go off, right? I didn't go off saying 40 isn't old. That's delusion, right? If you're in your 40s, you're older, right? And I fully expect you to know better. I fully expect you to know better than letting a 33-year-old play in your face, right? Because even me, I'm not even in my 40s. And I said, anybody that tries to play in my face, look, I'm an older lady. You cannot play in my face. You cannot play in my face, right? So what's the difference there? Well, the difference is, I guess maybe because I wasn't born like in America, I didn't really inherit this mindset that getting older is a negative thing. Getting older, culturally for us, because culturally I'm African, is not a negative thing. We don't view that as a negative thing, right? We view that as a positive thing. Actually, the older family members in our family have a ton of power, especially power over the younger people within the dynamics of a family, right? A little bit too much power, right? It's like, it's really, really hard to find a middle ground because culturally in the African culture, the older the people are, the more power, the more respect, and the more reverence. So I said, oh, that's the difference. I said, why are these people like, and I said, oh, it's an American mentality because part of their patriarchy conditioning has conditioned them to believe that aging is a negative thing. So as soon as they hear anything about age, it triggers their emotion. And one thing I've noticed about Americans is, there's not much brain power that comes into place for a lot of Americans. It's like once they hit emotion, that's where it stops for them, right? They don't stop to process through beyond the emotional factor, right? So, I said, no, that's an older lady. There's no way. There's no way. I say that even about myself. When people say like, try to come to me with nonsense, like, I'm sorry, do you know who you're talking to? Like, I'm in my, like, what? What? Like, especially if it's someone younger trying to play my face. So I was like, where's that coming from? No. So the actual conditioning, in my opinion, the actual conditioning isn't the fact that women in their 40s aren't older. Okay. Or these aren't old ladies old enough to know better. That's not the conditioning. The conditioning, the patriarchal mindset is that getting old or aging is a negative thing. So males have done such a good job about insulting you societally, right? At least males here in America have done such a good job about insulting the crap out of you, ladies, that you've believed it, you've internalized it, and you don't even question it, right? Y'all don't even question these things, right? But I'm in the field of psychology, right? PhD in psychology. So these are things that, also a part of it also is that we're trained to not be so emotional and losing sight of like the point. You know what I mean? So I think that the general public, although I understand why y'all like to go based off of emotions so much, I think part of the problem that women have in particular is that we don't really sit back to decode, right, in a more logical way. And I hate to say that because I know males weaponize that a lot too and say women are so emotional, they're not logical. But the thing is, in certain areas, this is accurate, right? In certain areas, this is accurate, unfortunately, because imagine telling me that this is not an older lady, a lady in her 40s. Are y'all delusional? What are y'all smoking? You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand. Like, there's no way. This is an older lady in her 40s letting herself get played. I wish someone would try to play me, and I'm in my 40s. Like, are you insane? You know how much wealth I would have probably built by then, and you want to come here and play my face? Do I look 20 to you? Like, y'all, get it together. So that's what I've realized is that it's that if you got offended by that, and your first view of that was, oh, that's something negative, then you need to point the finger back at yourself and think to yourself, why did I get instantly triggered by that? Why was that something that immediately elicited a negative response from me, right? 40s being called older. Why? And I wish, and one of the comments I removed, I wish I would have kept it. I wish I would have kept it, and screenshotted it. But you need to sit back and process through these things, ladies, because you cannot undo the patriarchy like this. You really, really have to. We as a collective have to elevate beyond this, right? If age can be used and weaponized against you so easily, then that's a problem. That's a problem. So why do these people view this as like a negative thing? It's like you're an older lady. You should know better. You should know better, hands down, right? We're not. This is not a thing that's up for debate. The difference in mentality here now I've always been told, even my mom has told me this, that I think very differently from those people. Like, I never really believed it because it doesn't feel different to me, because I'm just me. It doesn't really feel like anything. It just feels like, yeah, that's what makes sense to me. But apparently 99% of the population thinks differently than I think in a lot of things. I wouldn't say in everything, but in a lot of things. But anyway, so let me know what your thoughts are, and let's see what we can find here.
The comment reads, it's because statistics show single childless women over the age of 40 is the saddest demographic. Now, this was not a comment directed at me, left on one of my videos. I found it through my mutual, who I will tag, and she was responding to this comment with one of her videos. But what I wanted to say to this comment, because it is very indicative of a lot of these kind of fear-mongering comments that we get from men who want to, let's say, keep the status quo going in terms of women as the helpmate who do the bulk of the domestic labor, leaving men to their own devices and free time. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that this was true. I highly doubt that this commenter or anybody else who brings up this statistic actually cares about women's happiness. Like, what does it affect you if a whole demographic of population is unhappy? If they live their life in a way that is unhappy for them. Doesn't affect you. Does not affect you at all. This kind of disingenuous couching of, you're gonna die alone and lonely and with cats. You don't care. You don't care whether women are happy. You don't care if we are fulfilled in our lives. You just want to fearmonger and use this idea that without a heteronormative nuclear family setup, women cannot possibly be happy. And that is not true. But let's just dispense with all the faux care and concern, because you don't care.
I would suggest that if you are wanting to feel glorious about your midlife experience, if you are wanting to feel like the most beautiful, embodied, celebratory queen with everything in her life still ahead of her, with this being a time where she gets to become and become and become and evolve and evolve and evolve, then keep close proximity to women who are doing exactly the same. Otherwise, you will be in a constant game of having your feet dragged under. They will be in the deep end of the pool and they will be trying to drag you under with their limited beliefs, with their toxic ideas, with their fears and lack of celebration around midlife. So if you want to feel amazing about midlife, it begins with the way you speak to yourself. It begins with the words that you have in your mind and your body and your nervous system.